Hi guys, Casper MMA here, and today we're back with another predictions video on the channel. Today I give my predictions for UFC Fight Night, Edwards versus Brady. Our last prediction video for the UFC on this channel was UFC 313, the Alex Pereira card. That was interesting cards. We did pretty well on picks, to be fair. We obviously got the main event wrong though. I picked Alex Pereira. I was a bit bummed out by that. I wanted Pereira to win, but it was a close decision. But this week, we're back in the UK for a fight night. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm ready to make my picks. Before I do that, though, make sure if you guys are enjoying this content and you're not already, you go and hit that subscribe button down below. It's free, and it's really appreciated. So, there's 13 fights on this card, and we kick things off with the prelim opener of Kutateladze versus Fernandes. Now, this is a great fight to start the card. Like, come on. Kutateladze, 13-4 in total. Obviously, he beat John Vucenic, who was actually on this card, to be fair, as well. And his last fight, that was a pretty decent win, to be fair. Vucenic looked pretty decent as well. Obviously, he lost before that, 2 fights in a row. But he did beat Gamrot by split decision in 2020, his first fight in the UFC, which is quite impressive. And also, yeah, Kutateladze is a pretty decent fighter, to be fair. His opponents, I don't know how you say his first name, Fernandes, 9-2, Brazilian. Beat Muhammad Yahya in his last fight by KO, which was pretty expected. I think I picked him for that, to be fair. Lost a split decision to Mark Diakese before that. So that's his 2 fights in the UFC, 1-1. So he's alright fighter, to be fair. He is decent. But both these guys should put on a pretty fun fight, to be fair. But I'm going to go with Kutateladze to get this fight done. I feel like he's a pretty decent fighter. He's going to get the decision. Now, moving up the card too. Loughran, I don't know how you say his name, versus Nathan Fletcher. Now, this is a pretty decent fight to be fair. Both these guys are pretty good prospects, really. Loughran is 9-2. Both his 2 losses coming in the UFC, to be fair. Obviously, he was a pretty decent Cage Warriors fighter. Then lost to Lapilus, who's a decent fighter. Then lost to Jake Hadley in his last fight. So, not had the easiest run in the UFC so far. Nathan Fletcher, on the other hand, 9-1. Obviously, also came from Cage Warriors. Lost to Carnofli on the Ultimate Fighter, but came into the UFC, choked out Zigomantas Ramaska in his first fight, and he looks pretty decent. So it's actually a tough one to pick. Both these guys, very similar records, both pretty decent fighters. So it's a tough one, but I'm going to have to back the Englishman here. I'm going to have to go with Nathan Fletcher to get the job done by decision. Now, moving up the card too. Sean Bannon versus Pulyaev Tomar. Now, a women's fight here. Sean Bannon, 6-1, Irish. In the last fight, she won a split decision over Alice Ardeline. I can't remember it too much. She was on the last UK card, I think. Don't think she looked that great in that performance. Lost to Bruna Brazil in her first fight in the UFC as well. But she's not a bad fighter, really. She's 6-1. It's a decent record. Opponent, 9-4. Pooja Tomar from India. Did win her first fight in the UFC by split decision to Rayan Amanda. Is on a 5 fight winning streak at the moment. She hasn't got the best of records. She's lost quite a few fights in one championship, but she's on a decent streak at the minute. But I don't think she's going to be good enough to beat Shauna Bannon here. I mean, she could do it. It's a women's fight. I seem to get women's fights wrong every single time. So whatever I say, just back the opposite and it'll happen. But I'm going with Bannon to get the decision. Now, moving up the card too. Andre Pulyaev versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Now, I'm sorry, I'm absolutely full of cold at the minute. I mean, it's just starting up and it's getting annoying. But Andre Pulyaev, 9-2. He just won on the Contender Series in his last fight to Liam Anderson. Not fought in the UFC yet, but he's on like a 5 fight winning streak at the minute. A lot of these by finish as well. 2 by KO, 2 by submission, 1 by decision on the Contender Series. So he looks a pretty good fighter, to be fair. I don't know about the level of opponents he's fought before coming to the UFC, but he's still decent. Christian Leroy Duncan on the other hand, CLD, 10-2. Lost his last fight to Gregory Rodriguez, but I think that was kind of expected because it was quite a big jump from the opponents he's been facing before. Obviously, KOs Ribeiro and Tululin, and then lost to Petrosian. But he's got all his fights he's won have been by finish in the UFC, so that's pretty good. And he's lost 2 decisions, but I do think he's going to bounce back here with a win. I do back CLD. He's a decent fighter, and I reckon he's going to get another KO here. Now, moving up the card too. Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. Now, Mick Parkin, I'm pretty sure he's a ranked heavyweight at the minute. Or he's in the top 15, I'm pretty sure, which is kind of crazy. I mean, he's 10-0 to be fair. He's 4 fights in the UFC. Just knocked out Lucas Bresky in his last fight. Obviously beat Mohamed Usman, Machado, Pogues. So on a decent run at the minute. I mean, obviously undefeated, so you can't really say much else about him. I mean, won on the contender series as well. Picking up a few wins here. Marcin Tybura, on the other hand, how old is he now? 39, getting on a bit. 26-9 in total record. Lost to Spivak by armbar, but then came back and beat Denise, which I did not expect. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if I made picks, but I definitely was picking Denise to win that. No, yeah, Denise to win that, but stopped him in round 2, which is pretty impressive. So, to be honest, I can see it's going either way. I can see McParkin continues winning streak. I can see Tybura winning here. But I'm going to have to back the man with experience here. Tybura, I mean, even though he's 39, it's heavyweight. I'm pretty sure he can still get this job done. I don't think Mick Parkin's the greatest fighter ever. I mean, he is still only 10-0 as well, so he's still improving. But I'm going to go with Marcin Tybura to get the job done by decision. Now, moving up the card to Lona Kavanagh versus Felipe dos Santos. Now, really fun fight here at flyweight. Love both of these two fighters. Lona, I don't even know how to say his first name. Lona Kavanagh. He's Chinese, but he's also like English or like British or something as well. 8-0. Really impressive performance on the contender series. One of the best like KOs I've seen. Then won by decision against Jose Ochoa in his first fight in the UFC. So not as impressive, but he still looks pretty decent in that fight. Obviously first fight in the UFC as well. He's fighting Felipe dos Santos, who's obviously a pretty decent fight. I mean, obviously had that great performance against Manel Cap in that fight. Then won a split decision. Then he lost to Andre Lima in his last fight. Andre Lima's pretty good. He's still undefeated now. So some pretty hard fights since he's come to the UFC, Felipe dos Santos, and this is another one for him, which I think he loses because I think Kavanagh is really good. So I'm going to go with Kavanagh. It should be a fun fight. I can honestly see either guy winning this by decision, but I'm going to go with Kavanagh to get the job done. Now, moving up the card to Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. Now, Jai Herbert, he's been looking pretty good recently. His last fight beat Ronaldo Bedoya by decision. Looked really good in that fight. Was pretty clean boxing. Obviously lost before that for Ziam, but Ziam is a pretty good fighter. A draw to Ludovic Klein isn't bad. I can't actually remember that fight, but Ludovic Klein is very good, so getting a draw against him isn't the worst thing in the world. Chris Padilla, on the other hand, is on a few fight winning streak now. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. 2 fights won in the UFC. James Lontop, who's now cut now from the UFC, and Rongzu. So he hasn't fought the best of UFC opponents, but still on a decent winning streak at the minute. Isn't bad, but I don't think he's going to beat Jai Herbert here. I think Herbert is just a very good boxer in that. If he stay on the feet, I think Herbert wins this fight, and I reckon he gets the decision. Now, moving up the card to Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charriere. Really good card. This is the main card now. There's some good matchups on this card. I really like them. Nathaniel Wood, pretty good fighter, a featherweight. Beat Daniel Pineda in his last fight. Lost to Naimov before that, but in total he's 8-3 in the UFC. So pretty impressive record, really. I think he's a pretty decent fighter. Morgan Charriere, on the other hand, 20-10, is also a good fighter. He's 2-1 in the UFC. Beat Cecchini in his first fight by KO. Lost a split decision to Chepi Mariscal, but then I'm pretty sure that was a robbery, if I remember correctly. I'm not too sure. And then he won by KO against Gabriel Miranda in his last fight. So he's got a couple good performances there in his UFC career. But this is going to be a close fight. I'm not sure which way it will go, but I'm going to predict that Wood gets this job done in England. Come on, got to back the English guy, and I reckon Wood gets the decision. Now, moving up the card too. Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan. And a really good matchup. I like this one. Jordan Vucenic, 13-3. Obviously, his first fight against Gunnar Kutateladze, he lost by decision. I'm pretty sure he was winning that fight. And then, he was thinking he might have won the first round maybe. And then they lost the second. I can't remember how the fight went, but I just remember his coaches were telling him he was up 2 rounds going into the third, which he definitely wasn't, and he basically just lost the fight to decision. So that was really annoying. But I still think he's a really good fighter. Obviously, he had the belt in Cage Warriors, beating he beat Paul Hughes at one point. He beat Mong Charriere, who just discussed on this card. So he's got some good wins in there. Obviously, 1-0-1 in the UFC, but he's fighting Chris Duncan, 12-2, Scottish man. He lost to Manuel Torres by rear naked choke in the UFC, but apart from that, he's had I think it's 3-1 in total. Obviously, won on the contender series as well. Won in his last fight. I think he was a big underdog against Balaji Oki, but he got the guillotine in round 1. Pretty sure he went I can't remember. He's out and he had to tell the ref to stop it. It was a weird stoppage. I can't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, I think both these guys really good British guys, and I think I'm gonna go Vucenic here. I mean, it's a pretty hard one to call, but I think Vucenic is gonna get the job done, and you know what? I reckon he's gonna get the submission. Now moving up the cards to Molly McCann versus Alexia Thainara. Now, Molly McCann, obviously know who she is. Meatball, 14-7 in total. I'm not sure what weight class this is at. This is at strawweight, which I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she moved to in one of her last fights. She beat Belbita, then lost to Bruna Brazil. So she's got an interesting record. Just when you think she's looking good, she's loses 2 in a row. Then it's you don't know what to think of Molly McCann. She's got some talent, but also she looks pretty shit in some of her fights as well. Alexia Thainara, on the other hand, 11-1. Decent record. She fought on the contender series recently last year, beating Conseil Xiao by decision. She hasn't. She actually her one loss is to Bruna Brazil, who Molly McCann's just lost to. So both these fighters have lost to Bruna Brazil. But apart from that, she's got a pretty good record, to be fair. But I think I'm going to back Molly McCann here, to be fair. I mean, this is her first fight in the UFC. Molly McCann has been around a while now in the UFC, and I reckon Molly McCann is going to get the submission. Now moving up the card to Kevin Holland versus Gunnar Nelson. Now, Kevin Holland popping up on the most random fight cards imaginable. He just pops up everywhere. I mean, he's so active. I mean, I think I saw a stat. He's the most active fighter in the last couple of years, something, or the most active fighter in the UFC. I don't know how long, but yeah, he fights all the time. He just lost to Rainier de Ridder in his last fight to rear naked choke in round 1. But to be fair, he's only got 1 win in his last 5 fights. But to be fair, he does just fight anyone. I mean, he's fought basically so many good people in the UFC, so many good fighters, and then I feel like he's just a very mid-range fighter, Kevin Holland. He definitely, I don't think he'll get cut if he loses again, but because he can definitely beat all the mid level fighters in the UFC. He just can't beat the top guys. But yeah, he's fighting Gunnar Nelson here, who apparently just pops up whenever there's a UK card for some reason. But yeah, he beat Brian Barbara in his last fight. He's actually on a 2-fight winning streak. He beat Takashi Sato as well by decision. He is 36 now, but he's still got it. He's still hanging around here. Lost by split decision to Leon Edwards. Lost by decision to Gilbert Burns. So he's been fighting some decent people on a 2-fight winning streak at the minute. 10-5 in total in the UFC. To be fair, this could go either way, this fight. I mean, honestly, I can never trust Kevin Holland. Pretty sure I've backed him a couple times to win, and he's just been shit. So yeah, Gunnar Nelson, I'm going to back him. I'm going to back the Icelandic man to get this job done. And I reckon Kevin Holland was submitting his last fight. I reckon Gunnar Nelson is going to get the submission. Now, moving up the card to the co-main. Jan Błachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. Big fight here. Jan Błachowicz finally back after I don't know how long, 2 years nearly. At least 1.5 years when he had the split decision to Alex Pereira. It took a lot of time off. He's getting on a bit now, 42 years of age. So it's quite a long layoff at that age, to be fair. But he might have got better in that time. You never know. Carlos Ulberg, 11-1 in total. He's 34 years of age, but I still call him a prospect, to be fair, in this division because he's on the come up. Just beat Volkan Özdemir. I mean, he had that 12-second KO of Alonzo Menifield as well. That was really impressive. And his only loss was his first fight to Kennedy Ezechukwu. So he's looked really good since then. And yeah, this could be a close one, to be fair. I can see Ulberg winning. I can also see Jan Błachowicz winning. I mean, Jan is a very good fighter still. I mean, went to split decision with Alex Pereira, which is pretty impressive. The only person was Ankalaev in the last fight to go to decision. So yeah, it could go either way this, but I'm gonna back the younger man in Ulberg to get this job done. Jan Błachowicz has been out a while now, probably might be a bit rusty. Carlos Ulberg is going to come in here and he's going to get the decision. Now moving up the card to the main event, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Now Leon Edwards is back after that very disappointing performance against Belal Muhammad. I picked him to win, and that was the wrong choice, I must say. I don't know why I backed him that much. Belal Muhammad took easy care of him until Leon Edwards did nothing until the final round, where he finally actually landed a punch or something, which is mental. Sean Brady in the advance 17-1. Obviously, he's only lost coming to Belal Muhammad, who has beat both these guys now. But since then, he beat Gilbert Burns pretty easily and beat Kevin Gastelum as well. So, to be honest, I can see this being a close fight, to be honest. I mean, Leon Edwards was saying, I think I heard him quote saying oh, if Belal Muhammad can finish you, I can as well. That is very true, to be fair. But I can see this being the decision. 48-47, split decision. It's got it written all over it. But I'm going to back Leon Edwards to come back. I feel like he's still got it. That was a pretty poor performance against Belal. I feel he's going to come back. He's gone to the gym. He's trained a bit. And he's going to come back and he's going to beat Brady by decision. So there are my picks for UFC London. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my picks. And that's all for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, maybe leave a like, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.